muffins, and I need help.
Sounds good. Who's eating all of that?
Unfortunately, we are. That's a problem.
Uh-oh.
Feeding people. So,
I heard Doug.
Like an Lemon prize, let me know. I'll drop one over.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Doug. Good morning.
Morning.
Everybody up and Adam and okay, good. Okay, if you would do the honors for our candle.
I will.
Yes. Oh, you moved me down.
So we light this candle in recognition of and appreciation for the Christ light within each of us and the presence of the divine in our gathering.
Thank you.
And it is there, if you can see it or not. Yeah, our fan is giving us a little trouble.
Let me first of all run through a few announcements here.
Announcements.
Again, this week things are moving along with our sales transaction. I filled out a number of documents this week and provided information to the buyer. So I don't know that there's anything that we will need to cover in the real estate team meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So let's just assume that it might happen. But if you've got other things going on, by all means, go ahead and take care of them. But I'll send out a notice mid-afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock, regarding whether or not we will have one. But right now, assume that we won't. Okay? And then, of course, tomorrow night, the 7 o'clock discussion, prayer circle and meditation on Wednesday, and TGIF on Friday. All of those at 7 o'clock. And I did make a note in the chat box that if you would like to have me call for counseling or prayer support or just a life and times discussion, just leave your phone number in the chat box. Address it to me. That way only I will get your phone number. But I'm happy to call you. But unless I know that you would like a call, I may be calling someone else. So please let me know if you'd like a call. I'm happy to do that. And if you would, Doug, if you would accompany our Love is Flowing Like a River, I will mute everybody. And then, Doug, if you could unmute yourself, that would be wonderful. We're not hearing you, Doug. Let me see if I can find you in the list and get you.
Hello?
Okay, I can hear you.
All right.
All right.
It keeps muting back for some reason. Here we go.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. And our affirmation for Living Water Unity. Living Water Unity is a thriving spiritual community inspired to embrace and share our abundant good now. I am empowered for joyful living by expressing God in each moment. And our daily word, I'd like someone to step up and read that. Remember to unmute yourself before you do that.
I guess I can do that.
Okay.
Word for today is comfort. Christ in me is my comfort. Experiences that move me out of my comfort zone are part of my life. The first day at a new school, starting or leaving a job, a new phase in a relationship, retiring from a career, the passing of a loved one, any change can evoke discomfort, even grief. I grieve when I think of change as loss of security, loss of my place in my community, or loss of love. The Christ, the divine presence of life, love, and wisdom within me, is my constant source of comfort through all of life's changes. I find assurance that although its physical expressions may change, life can never end. I know oneness and love with all who have been dear to me. Recognizing my divine nature, I know that there is no loss, change, or circumstance that can limit me, and I am comforted. Scripture for today is from Psalm 71, verse 21. You will increase my honor and comfort me once again.
Thank you. And if you would, now is the time for our prayer. I will begin with our introductory prayer, but I would like each of you, if you are so inclined, to offer a prayer. I will, after your offered prayer, we'll have a few seconds just for each of us to consider the prayer, consider the person praying for, and the person or situation being prayed for, and just offer unconditional love to that. Don't look for solutions, don't require solutions, but rather just offer unconditional love to that which is being prayed. And so, in this time, we gather in this sacred space. We allow ourselves to rest in this awareness that God as unconditional love is present in our life at all times. And in that awareness, let us pray. Father, Mother God, we give thanks for this awareness of your presence here and now. We allow ourselves in this moment to let go of any of our burdens that are in this moment, that we have voluntarily pulled into this moment. We set those aside. And in the awareness of your presence and in the feeling and the reception of your unconditional love, we know that we are blessed all the time. And so we rest in this awareness of your love, your unconditional love, your limitless, unconditional love that is available to us anytime we open ourselves to that. And so we give thanks that this is so. We breathe into this awareness. We surrender to this awareness. And for this we give thanks. And for those who would like to offer a prayer at this point, please allow that prayer to be descriptive but succinct. And I invite you to offer the prayer now.
This is Trinity. I could use some prayers for my real estate transaction that's ongoing right now. I'm purchasing the condo that I've been living in for almost 10 years. and things are getting really rough and bumpy. I may have to actually change lenders, and I'm a week away from my closing. So I'd appreciate prayers for that situation. Thank you.
And offering unconditional love, not offering any solution, but just unconditional love. And so it is.
I'd like to offer a prayer for my father, of course, Keith, just for diminishing dementia, a close relationship with God, peace. And also my friend Amy's mom, Jan, who just got hospitalized the day before yesterday.
And so it is.
I'd like to request prayers and care for a good friend of mine who and former name is Anne, who is now preparing for, after 2 weeks of isolating, breast cancer surgery.
And so it is.
I have another one. Anne Vachereau, many of you know Don's first wife, fell and broke her arm last week up near the humerus, and she's in the hospital. I've spoken to her briefly a couple times. She's in quite a bit of pain. I don't know when they're going to be able to move her to rehab or skilled nursing facility, but obviously for someone of her age, that's a pretty bad break. So she can't just be released to go home. So prayers for her as well. Thank you.
And so it is.
For my cousins who just lost their dad yesterday, that they come back together as a family.
And so it is.
Prayers for my sister, Valerie, who is undergoing knee surgery tomorrow, knee replacement, and it's been put off a lot of times for various things. So just hoping for her quick healing and an easy time of it.
And so it is.
I'd like prayers for my husband, Andy, as he goes in surgery tomorrow for his patella and his clavicle on his left side, and just an expedient recovery and steady surgeon hands and patience for me.
And so it is.
Prayers for Grace Balzer, who has been indirectly exposed to COVID and is self-quarantining. Prayers for all 4 of our kids who live in California and are in the thick of the COVID and the demonstrations. And as always, for Janine Stanley and Rose Palika, frontline workers, and all the other frontline workers.
And so it is.
I would like prayers for my friend Tom Ross, who was admitted to hospice recently, and then also continued and improved healing from my recent surgery.
And so it is. For all of these prayers, and for those prayers not yet spoken, we hold the whole universe of creation in our hearts, extending unconditional love to all that is, to all that was, to all that will be. And we know that all that wasn't, all that isn't, and all that won't be is in divine order. And so in this awareness, we give thanks. And so it is that together we say, Amen. So, Doug has responded, I think, has responded on very short notice for a selection this morning. There's the signal. Okay. And if you would like to get a, well, okay. So, Maestro, if you would please. Well done, Doug.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous. We needed that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the most beautiful rendition of America the Beautiful I think that I have ever heard. That was wonderful.
I agree.
And now we'll take an offering for Living Water Unity.
Made me cry, Doug. Stop it.
I know that brought tears to me too.
Okay,
Well,
for all you music theory junkies, that was in 3 different keys. Far apart one day.
It was well done.
It was amazing. I really miss being in the presence of all of our musicians and our singers and our songwriters. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen your setup, Doug, but you certainly have the audio issue resolved for for your setup there. Wow. Okay. So, as you are aware, we have been studying we've been reviewing a book called Embracing Uncertainty by Susan Jeffers. And Susan is she's passed. She passed about 8 years ago, but she has a substantial library of books. If you Google Susan Jeffers, you'll see a whole lot of them. Embracing Uncertainty, it turns out, is one of, if not her last book, it's one of her last books that she wrote in the 2008-2009 time frame. I'm guessing she passed in 2012, so I'm guessing that she's had something since then. But in her book, she explores the various tools that we have for encountering this life of uncertainty. And so as we look at this life and times, and we look at our reaction to and our inner engagement with this era of uncertainty, it certainly seems like this is a more uncertain time than any other. And certainly in society writ large, that is very true. And perhaps also in our individual experiences, we are challenged. So what we talked about last week, we were talking about the encumbrances of worry, and how our worrying about what's going to happen, all it does is just engages us in a series of scenarios that will not happen. I mean, for any given worry that we might have, we could imagine several outcomes, when in fact, in that situation, there will be only one outcome. So the worrying is really a waste of energy, because for the most part, what we worry about, we don't have control over. And that's why we worry. We worry because we don't have control. And having control seems to be one of our number one objectives. So what we're talking about this week is what robs us of our freedom. The title of the talk is Free to Be, and one could also say free to be happy, because that is, I think, a universal objective that we have, regardless of how we state it. An objective that we have is to be happy. And our challenge is that as we strive to be happy, stuff gets in our way. I'd like to share with you Okay. That's interesting. I'd like to share with you a series of questions. First of all, a definition of happiness that comes from the happiness advantage. The question is, how do scientists define happiness? Now, that's not, that may not be germane for you, but for a common base of discussion, let's look at this definition of happiness. It comes from the psychology of the positive psychology school. Essentially, as the experience of positive emotions, pleasure combined with deeper feelings of meaning and purpose. Happiness implies a positive mood in the present and a positive outlook for the future. Martin Seligman, the pioneer in positive psychology, has broken it down into 3 measurable components: pleasure, engagement, and meaning. His studies have confirmed, though most of us know this intuitively, that people who pursue only pleasure experience only part of the benefits of happiness can bring, while those who pursue all 3 routes lead the fullest lives. Perhaps the most accurate term for happiness, then, is the one Aristotle used, eudaimonia, which translates not directly to happiness, but to human flourishing. So, human flourishing, that's, when we think about that, each of us has a different set of criteria of what we would classify as flourishing. And something I'd like to pose to the community here is, what is it that robs us of that human flourishing? So, what it is creates an intense need to control everyone and everything in our experience. Now, what that might be. What might that be? It robs us of our peace of mind. It keeps us from noticing and exploring exciting possibilities that may arise. It makes us feel insecure. It rules our emotions, our assessments, our actions. And ironically, while it gives the illusion that we are in some measure in control, when in fact it controls us. And it creates an attachment to specific outcomes. So, what do you think that might be?
Ego.
Ego. Okay.
Ego interferes with happiness.
Okay. Anyone else? You've heard me talk about it. Come on. Come on. I know you know. I know you know. I'm sorry, the talk stops here. What might it be? What might rob us of our security? What might rob us of our sense of flourishing? What might preoccupy us? What might be the basis of worry? What might this be?
Fear.
Fear.
Fear. Okay. Patrick, I'm not hearing you. I see your frame lighting up, but I'm not hearing you. Expectations. Expectations are the basis of all of those robbings. Expectations are the thief of our peace of mind. Expectations are the thief that causes us to want to be in control of everything and everyone in our presence, right? Expectations. We see something, we encounter something in our experience, and very quickly, unless we're attuned to this, very quickly we're going to start thinking, well, what should I expect from this? I mean, that is part of our survival mechanism, right? We leave our cave and we see a saber-toothed tiger, and immediately we say, okay, what should I expect from this? Oh, I better grab my club, right? Well, the success of our ancestors has been that they have been very attuned to the circumstances that they encounter, such that they survived those circumstances to the point of procreation. Now, they may not have survived past that, but the point is that we are here because of the success of our ancestors in anticipating and responding to the circumstances in their environment that are life endangering. The problem with expectations is that we attach to the outcome, and the attachment to the outcome is the basis for our worry. Or it is, yes, it's the basis for our worry. It is the basis for our unhappiness, because of all of the stuff that occurs before we perceive the outcome of that particular situation. So expectations are the problem. And we've talked about how to get rid of expectations. Expectations can be dissolved. Susan Jeffers offers some specific exercises, offers us some specific exercises, and she talks about the process of cutting the cord. And so she uses in her exercise, she calls forth a practice that anytime you have an expectation of something out there, that you imagine cutting the cord of that outcome and just letting it float away. Imagine, for instance, okay, I'm driving down the highway. Excuse me. I'm driving down the highway, and this happened actually the other day when we were going up to Estes Park. We were coming into Estes Park, headed for our coffee shop, which we always head to the coffee shop, and what pulled out in front of us was a red Z3. It looked like it was the same year as ours. And so I wanted to catch up with the person who was in the Z3. And I wanted to, say hi, good choice on car, that sort of thing, right? So as I was trying to catch up with this person was weaving in and out of traffic. Well, I recognize that motion. That's what I do, okay? But nonetheless, I wasn't able to catch up with her until we reached the stoplight. And when we reached the stoplight, my expectation was that I was going to wave and say hi, and she was going to, turns out it was a woman driving, she was going to wave back to me and say nice car or something like that. And so we pulled up to the stoplight, and she did just a quick glance, did a little finger wave, and she sped off. Well, it turns out she had the 6-cylinder version, and I have the 4-cylinder version, so she disappeared in the traffic ahead of us. So my expectation was that I was going to have some kind of camaraderie greeting, right? And didn't happen. Well, in that moment, now that didn't adversely affect my happiness, because I was in a convertible in the mountains, and it was a beautiful day, and coffee was just 1 minute and 30 seconds away, and it was wonderful. Well, but the expectation that I held that there was going to be some kind of mutual back and forth was dashed. And in a small way, that affected my happiness in that moment. Have you ever had that encounter? Have you ever, not chasing the Z3, but have you ever had that situation where you've had some expectation of some incident, some minor incident in your experience that didn't come to pass? Have you had that experience? Tell me about it. Yes. Okay. Kay, Clarence, tell me about your experience.
Well, I know I've had the experience, but with some of those minor things, I'm having trouble remembering anything particular. That's why I was going like this, but I certainly have had that.
What about something major that you can remember? And you don't need to reveal anything that you choose not to.
No, okay. Well, we took our trip to Ireland last summer, and as I've mentioned, we had paid a deposit on a trip to Norway this summer. Now, my plan was that right about now, we'd be in the final stages of getting ready to go. And that's obviously not happening. Now, I'm not unhappy because I get to grow vegetables this year instead of going to Norway. I don't know. But yeah, that was an expectation we both had.
Okay. Immediately after you found out that you weren't going to be able to do that, what was your feeling? How did that expectation dash your hopes in that moment?
Well, the realization came to me gradually
Okay.
as conditions developed.
Right. Okay.
And so it wasn't a blow to me. I would say on the final day when the balance of the payment would have been due, fortunately, what I was hoping would happen did happen. The organizer of the tour emailed everyone and said, yeah, we'll keep your deposit if that's okay, and your space will be reserved next year. So I didn't, I had already decided I didn't want to go. So I guess when it was official, there was relief.
It was relief, yeah.
That we hadn't lost the money we'd already put down on it.
Right. So these encounters that we have in our experience, whether they're minor or they're major, it may be just a split second of, oh no, or it might be, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Those encounters actually rob us of the joy in that moment. Now, I'm not talking about the joy overall, because we can bounce back. We're adaptable. We accommodate changes in our experience. At least I hope we do. And that really is the point: is to be able to accommodate those changes. And the practice that Susan Jeffers offers is one of imagining that. Whatever that is, in my case, it was the encounter with another red Z3 convertible. In your case, it was the encounter with the tour that was canceled, and thank God you got your money back. But the practice that she recommends is in recognition that we are right now in the expectant mode, that we literally take a pair of scissors. In our imagination, we take a pair of scissors and we cut the cord of that expectation. Now, you may say, well, that sounds simple. That how could that work? Well, it is part of the mental processing that we do as we encounter these things in our life. We can say, oh, now what? Or we can say, oh, well. And last week I talked about the power of wonder. The power of maybe and the power of wonder. When we have the opportunity to reset our thinking to, not that I hope this is going to occur, which sets up the expectation, but rather I wonder if it's going to occur, which if we're sincere in the curiosity about whether or not the outcome will occur, then that curiosity then will allow us to let go, to wash ourselves of an expectation. And that is powerful. That I wonder if, as opposed to I hope that. So the exercise of cutting the cord is one. Now I'm going to come back to the offering that I have made for you, and for the prayers that we began our session with. And that is that there is a stream of unconditional love that is flowing to us at all times. It comes from that foundation of consciousness, that vibration that is underneath all of creation. It is part of this panpsychic or this school of thought of panpsychism, where the universe is permeated with consciousness, and that greater consciousness, that universal consciousness, is what I have referred to as God. And so from that universal consciousness, there is a stream of unconditional love that always flows to us. The question is whether or not it flows through us. If we are not able to allow that unconditional love, if we're not able to let that in and let it flow through us, then we will not experience it. So my favorite is for the awareness of and the release of unconditional love into the moment. So there are two tools that you can use. There's the cutting the cord and seeing the expectation disappear, and there is the allowance of unconditional love. I'd like to share with you a passage from 1 Corinthians. I know I can. Here it is. Okay. From 1 Corinthians. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but I do not have love, I have nothing. If I give away all my possessions and I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And it does not insist on its own way. It does not require that any expectations that we hold are going to be fulfilled. It is given unconditionally. It is allowed to flow through us from that foundation that is God. It allows us to flow. We allow it to flow through, and not insisting upon our own way. We have within us the power of choice, and the choosing of love flowing through us unconditionally. Kindness, not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude, not irritable or resentful, because we do not require our expectations to be fulfilled. And so as we recognize that this process is one of our own choosing, that we are empowered to make that choice ourselves, that we do not have to insist upon some particular outcome, that we are allowing ourselves to be open to what is, not to worry, but to be warriors, to be making the choices that are appropriate for us, to be discerning in our experience, to allow this to happen in our experience, or to cut the cord and let that float away. To be discerning, to recognize that in this time of stress, in this time of trouble, we allow unconditional love to flow through us. And in that process, as I see it, in my own imagination, as I allow unconditional love to flow through me, then all of my experience is a reflection back to me of that unconditional love. And so as I allow unconditional love to flow through me, it is reflected back to me, and I experience that in my situation, in my condition, in my environment, in the circumstance in which I find myself. I find that it is glowing with unconditional love. Now, we have the opportunity to do it, and we have the opportunity to not do it. I find myself, when I am in a political discussion, that unconditional love, to hell with that, I want to prove my point, right? But in the recognition that this is causing me a lack of peace, this is causing me to lose my groundedness, then I have the choice, and I make the choice, to re-engage that awareness of the flow of unconditional love and allow it to move through me. So that's the power that we have. That is the choice that we have. We are empowered to be the captains of our own experience. And that singular choice of offering unconditional love to the moment will allow us that fulfillment which Aristotle is referring to, that eudaimonia, that happiness. That is our choice. Truly, that is our choice. And we get so engaged in the what ifs and what abouts and, oh gosh, I hope that. We get so engaged in that stuff, and I'll not use the four-letter word I might normally use for that, but we get so engaged in that stuff that we forget that we have that power. And that's the point. I've said before that if we can recognize this power, if we can make use of this power, then all of the $5,000 weekend conferences, all of the self-help books, all of the practices and disciplines, we can flush. Because if we're aware that we can choose unconditional love in our experience at any particular point in time, we will be fulfilled. Save your bucks. Send them to me. Save your bucks. This is your power. I encourage you to explore it and expand it because it is truly your divine heritage. Let's have our meditation. As we come into our meditation, let us come in with this awareness that we are here and now. We are here and now, present in this moment. Setting aside all of the stuff that we drug into this moment. Right here. Right now. Opening ourselves up to the awareness of the presence of unconditional love. Truly, it is what we can experience of God, and we can feel that very explicitly, and with practice, very vividly. So as we breathe in and we breathe out, centering ourselves in this moment. Feeling that presence of unconditional love and letting it flow through us into this moment. If we try to hang on to it, it kills the power. But allowing it to flow through us into this moment. Seeing it reach all aspects of our consciousness, all the dark corners of our consciousness, where fear resides. We allow unconditional love to flow into our experience. We recognize that this moment is divinely appointed, that we are here for this purpose, to be the conduit of unconditional love into this moment. And it could be that you are the only one in that moment, in your experience, in your domain of contact, in your domain of influence. You may be the only one experiencing that in that moment. But your being the conduit for it allows others to sense it, to allow others to relish in it, even if they don't know the source. You can be the ambassador of unconditional love in every situation. But in the process of doing that, you are fulfilled. You are performing your divine purpose. You are the conduit of God in that moment. you. You have been chosen in that moment to be the demonstrator of unconditional love. Feel what that feels like. And know that in so feeling, you are bringing yourself into the present moment. To truly feel that unconditional love is only possible in this moment. Feel how that feels. Feel how expansive that feels. Feel how connected you feel in that experience. Connected to the divine, connected to all that is all. We breathe in and we breathe out. We allow this unconditional love to flow through us without expectation. We allow it to flow through us to touch each and every person without allocation. We allow it to flow through us and heal every broken part of us, releasing the fear, releasing the judgment, dissolving our attachments to the outcome. Because in this recognition of divine love being reflected back to us, our specific agenda for the moment disappears. There is nothing in our human mind that we can imagine that would compete with this experience of divine love right here, right now. And this experience is always our choice. It is always our choice. And for this realization, we give thanks. And as we come back into this time and space, I'd like to share with you a video by Truck Dawn. I love myself just the way I am.
Myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. Myself just the way I am. I love you just the way you are. There's nothing you need to do. When I feel the love inside myself, it's easy. judge are done by people just like me. So tell the birth of peace on earth that only love can bring. I'll help it grow by loving everything. Myself the way I am, and still I want to grow. But change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. Just the way I am. I love myself just the way I am.
Smarna is like very outgoing.
Here. Hang on a second. Okay. All right. So how you feeling? Good? Let's let's come back here to
David, is my microphone?
I hear your microphone. Yep.
Okay. Great talk.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We're not done yet. Absolutely not. We're not done yet. Our offering blessing. Together, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. And Doug, if you would, let there be peace. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Yay. Again, if anyone would like me to give them a call, just drop to the chat box, indicate the type message here right above that, say to David Ridge, and then type your phone number in, and that'll appear in the chat box only to me. It won't appear to anyone else. So,
Should I put out the candle?
Please.
As we prepare to release our circle and extinguish this flame, we honor the divine light it represents, and we carry it with us into the world to protect us, motivate us, and to guide our actions.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.